What's up everyone, Gids here for another video on Crystal of Atlan. And in this video, we are going to talk about elemental damage. So what does elemental damage do? Which was the best element? If the elements actually do any effects whenever you use them? So yeah, because people have been asking this because of the insignias that give you elemental damage on your abilities and your attacks. So yeah, in this video, we're gonna test out what each of the elements do, if ever there are any differences. So we get to decide if there is actually a best element in the game or everything's just the same and it's just a straight up damage multiplier. So hopefully at the end of this we get to open up some builds for your character. Okay, so first up, we are in the training ground right now. We're using my Magiblade because Magiblade basically has neutral element on everything. If you are not sure if your character does elemental damage or not, just click on their abilities and it will usually pop up on the top side right here. We'll show you if it has an elemental damage or not. We'll say Pyro, Cryo, Umbro, or Electro up here. So you will see it up there. So if you are not sure or if it doesn't say anything, it's basically neutral element, meaning it has no elemental damage. Alright? So now let's talk about the attributes here. So by the way, in this training ground, we have crit rate set to 100% and element plus 110 in here for the damage testing. Okay, so don't be surprised if I have like crazy stats on this Magiblade because I don't. So peak crit right now is 133% just for damage purposes. We have consistent damage. And then here are my elemental damages, okay? So in this game, there are 4 elements. So Cryo, Pyro, Electro, and Umbro. So Cryo is ice, Pyro is fire, Electro is electric or lightning, Umbro is dark. Okay, so each of them are tied to this Electro Enhance stat, which you can generally get from your equipment, from Insignia, and from circuits. Okay, so this will make you kind of think about your circuit building and your Insignia socketing a little bit more once you understand how this works. So basically for each point of element enhancement, you get like 0.45 value of increased damage. So basically just half whatever this number is and then like subtract a bit more. That's the damage increase that you're gonna get. And surprisingly, when I was testing this out, this is very, very straightforward. Like it's just straight up an increase of your total damage when you're using elemental damage. So let's do the damage test right away. So we're gonna do a base damage, of course, with just a basic attack. So we're not gonna use skills because skills have skill multipliers and that just changes the calculations a lot. And I want this to be as simple as possible. Okay, so we're just gonna be using basic attack here. So my basic attack is 16019. Okay, 16019. So that's our baseline right here for our damage. All right, now we have food in the game. So let me just exit this for a bit so that you know where you can get this as well. So if you don't have the insignia, like these things right here that give you like Pyro attack, Cryo attack, Umbro attack, right? So if you don't have those insignia or maybe even the gear that gives you elemental damage like this thing. So if you don't have these things that change your abilities or attacks into attribute attacks, there's actually food that you can cook, but you have to unlock the recipes over here. So the last one is at 140, right? That's Cryo, 140 stars. So you have to do your exploration if you want to do elemental damage. Anyways, I have a food here right now equipped. I think we're gonna start with Electro damage, okay? So let's go back into the training ground. Okay, Electro damage. Our Electro damage right now is 60.7%. Okay, so again, base damage, 16019. So multiply that with 60%. 60.7%. We are expecting to have 25,748. 25,748, okay? 25,748. That's what maths are telling me. So we're gonna pop the food buff. Okay, so we pop the food buff now. And yeah, it's around that number. 25,747, right? 25,747. And if you actually check it here, usually we put debuffs on the enemy and you will see it in here. There are no debuffs for Electro right now. We're not seeing any debuffs being popped here, right? There are no debuffs, okay? So yeah, this is just converting all neutral damage to Electro and straight up 60% damage increase. That's straight up what you get. Okay, next up, let's change our elemental food. Now we're going with Umbro. Okay, changing to Umbro damage. So let's get back into the training grounds. Okay. Again, we have our crit rate increase, attribute enhance. Let's check our Umbro enhancement. So 129.2 is 58.7%. So putting that in, our expected damage is around 25,423. Okay, 25,423. So let's pop the food buff. 25,423, right? Okay. 25,426. So it's a little bit higher than expected, but yeah, there you go. Very consistent as well. For some reason, we have Scorch. By the way, Scorch is not an effect from Umbro damage. Just for some reason, I think I have an equipment that's scorching the enemy. I can't figure out which one it is, but ignore that because it's not an effect from the elemental thingy. Okay, but it looks like we also don't get any effects from Umbro. For some reason, we're getting Scorch, which is crazy. I'm pretty sure this is not an Umbro effect. Anyways, again, 25,426. So let's try other elements again. Okay, let's try our next element. So we tried Umbro, so now Cryo. Yes, so it's Cryo time. Okay, Cryo time. Let's check our attributes for Cryo. So Cryo is 131.2, which gives us 59.6. So 59.6 multiplier is 25,566 damage. 25,572. Yeah, 25,572 it looks like. Okay. 25,572. So it's pretty close to our calculations, right? It's like plus 6 damage. 6 damage off, right? Again, straight up increased damage multiplier. There is no slow. There is no slow. Lastly, we have Electro. Oh no, we already did Electro. We have Pyro, right? Yeah, Pyro is the last one. Let's go in. Okay, we have no damage elements. Let's check our attributes. Pyro enhancement is 58.7. So 58.7 is the same with Umbro. Okay, Umbro damage is 25,423. So let's pop the food buff. Bam. Yep. It's just plus 3 damage from our calculations here. So 25,423. So again, very straightforward. Also, if you were curious, yes, you can use it on your skills. Your skills will have the Pyro element onto them as well. Okay? So that's basically it for elemental damage. So if you're now curious which was the best element, I don't think there's a best element. The best element is the one that you have the highest stat on. So I think what you can do now is when you're building for your stats, usually we go for crit rate and crit damage, right? But crit rate and crit damage gets multiplied further by our damage on the elemental damage. This is why you see the top players or the top people in the rankings build for elemental damage, and they usually just focus on one element. This is the reason why you focus on just one element, because again, you just stack one, and whichever element you have the highest enhancement on, that's what you focus on, because it doesn't look like there's any difference for each and every element in here. You might be asking then, because if you are playing Bounty Hunter, she has this ability, right? She has this ability that gives us Pyro, Umbro, Cryo, and Electro. So Pyro says your explosion range increases, Umbro penetrates enemies, Cryo slows targets, and Electro is 20% chance to render the target vulnerable. This thing is exclusive to the Bounty Hunter. It doesn't apply for the natural elements that you get. Okay, so if you just get elemental damage, you do not get these bonuses. This is tied to the skill of the Bounty Hunter. Bounty Hunter is special like that, okay? So we don't get these passive abilities on our elemental damages. I hope that clears things up. Hopefully, clears things up, all right? So now if you're wondering which insignia to get, which circuit to build, which element to get, you just stack one element and you get the benefit from that damage. And you get like the damage bonus from that single element. So focus on one element only. Okay, so if for some reason you have two elements active, let's actually check that out with this Magiblade right here. So for some reason, if you have two elements active, where's our food buff? So I have a potion here. So potion will give you like, again, elemental damage. So this one's Pyro. And we can probably try out our Electro food. I actually have Electro food in here already. Is it possible to put... No, I can't put Pyro potion in here. So we might have to waste a Pyro potion for this testing. But anyways, we use our Pyro potion. So you now have it here. So now all our damage is Pyro. So go into the training ground. So we have Pyro damage, right? Yes. So it still has the same multipliers. But for some reason, you decided to use Pyro and then you eat an Electro food. Okay? So what happens? Okay? What happens? It's actually pretty simple. It just takes the highest enhancement that you have, elemental enhancement. So in this case, we have more Electro, right? So Electro is 133, Pyro is 129. So for sure, this is gonna take Electro enhancement. So yeah, damage is now Electro. So it's going to ignore your Pyro. So don't go for multiple elements. It doesn't work. You can't be the avatar in this game. You can't wield all 4 elements. So you really just have to pick one and stay on that one. Wait, this is nice to see. So it looks like even elemental damage gets changed into the highest element that you have, or into Electro, because Scorch is usually fire damage, but if you see it Scorch there, it actually became purple, which is Electro. So yeah, don't go building multiple elements or don't go using multiple elemental stuff because it only takes into account the highest element that you have, okay? Okay, finally, last thing to figure out for people that are playing classes that have their skills infused with elemental damage already. For example, an Elementalist or maybe a Warlock with Umbro already on abilities, right? Elementalist has Pyro, he has Electro, so it makes it a little bit harder to build your characters because you have multiple enhancements. Because the biggest advice here is to just stack one element, right? So the food that we have only changes neutral elements. This one only makes all neutral elements convert into Umbro damage. Now, the question is, and this is something I'm not sure of, if you actually use this weapon right here, because this says gain attribute attack, right? So yeah, it says gain attribute attack. I don't know if this converts even skills with elemental attributes already into the attribute that you want. I don't also know if it works with insignias. These insignias that give you gain Umbro attack. I don't know if this works for Elementalist on his abilities because they already have elements. Okay, so that's something for your testing. Please let us know in the comments if this actually works. Okay, thank you. So in summary, quick summary here, you just want to build one element from the 4. You pick one, whichever one has the highest stat, that's the one you stack, and that's the element that you pick for your insignia if you're going to get one of the gold insignias for your weapon. If you don't want to put something on your weapon, you can just keep consuming food because food can be cooked by your alts anyway, so you can get like 100 food per week and you get your elemental damage that way. Okay, so again, elemental damage is a really good damage multiplier that you can put on top of crit rate and crit damage that you're building. It just makes your damage output so much higher for sure. So yeah, that's pretty much it for building your elemental stuff in the game, elemental damage. So you have any idea now which element you're gonna go for? So I think it's recommended that we actually build elemental damage by the end game. Okay, so at least we pick one element and then we stick with that element. If you have any further questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye-bye.